Welcome to the Psych Ignition. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture him. He didn't flirt, he didn't chase. His gaze was a passing shadow. And yet she finds him living in her thoughts, rent-free, against her own better judgment. This is the landscape of modern attraction. There are men that women like, and then there are Sigma males. Men that women obsess over, silently, uncontrollably, in the quiet rebellion of their own minds against all logic. These are not the attention seekers, the performers on the stage of validation. No. In fact, when the crowd gathers, when the noise swells, they have a tendency to dissolve, to become spectral. But herein lies the beautiful psychological twist. The more invisible they choose to become, the more permanently they are etched into memory. Studies in emotional imprinting reveal a profound truth. The human psyche, especially in matters of deep attraction, is far more likely to be permanently marked by the brush of emotional ambiguity than by the blunt instrument of obvious interest. Simply put, the loudest voice in the room is the first to be forgotten. The one who remains a quiet, unsolved equation. He becomes the obsession. And that, my friend, is the native habitat of the Sigma male. He doesn't just occupy space, he colonizes her curiosity, her confusion, and ultimately, her deepest craving. He isn't playing a game of hard to get. Such games are for those who care about the outcome. The Sigma is hard to get, inherently, constitutionally, because his life does not orbit the sun of anyone else's approval. His gravity is self-generated. And the supreme irony? This very autonomy, this serene independence, is the precise reason women begin to feel themselves pulled into his orbit, like planets suddenly aware of a new, more compelling center of gravity, a signal they suddenly cannot imagine living without. So, steel your mind. Today, we descend. We will navigate the 12 profound, wildly attractive habits that compel women, sometimes in silent, desperate prayers, sometimes in shameless, raw pursuit, to seek the attention, the recognition of a Sigma male. This is not a playbook. This is a psychological excavation. Let's begin. Number 1. They look through women, not merely at them. Consider the common reaction to beauty. Most men falter. They freeze. They stammer. Their minds short-circuit, desperate to offer something, anything of value. Their focus is captivated by the surface, eyes tracing forms, minds clouded by mere appearance. It is a reaction, not an observation. But the Sigma male, he perceives differently. He does not get lost in the obvious splendor. He does not react to beauty as if it were a spell to be fallen under. His study is quiet, precise, and unnervingly deep. He is not looking at her. He is looking through her. Beyond the curated makeup, past the practiced smile, past the entire exquisite performance crafted for the world's applause. What he seeks is the source code. What drives her, what frightens her, what secret insecurities she hides behind the fortress of her confidence. And he reads this text not with arrogance, but with a profound stillness that makes her feel seen in the truest, most vulnerable sense, not just looked at, but perceived. That gaze, direct and unshaken, is not inherently sexual. It is psychological. It carries the sensation of being slowly, deliberately unraveled, layer by layer, without a single word being uttered. She feels exposed, not physically, but authentically, as if someone has quietly stepped past her grand performance and is now standing in the bare, backstage reality of who she is. This attention is deeply unsettling. Most women are conditioned to be desired for their form, not understood for their substance. But with a Sigma, there is no performing. He notes the subtle shift in vocal tone that betrays a lie. He registers the micro pause that signals discomfort. He catches the fleeting flicker in the eyes when a truth lands too close to home. He does not interrupt. He does not judge. But he remembers everything. And when he finally chooses to speak, it is often a single line, so accurate, so surgically sharp, that it slices through every defense in an instant. It is not a compliment. It is not flattery. It is truth. And that species of truth is a rare currency. It is rare to feel truly seen without being sexualized. It is rare to be studied without being objectified. It is rare to be decoded by someone whose only motive is understanding, not control. This is what makes Sigma males dangerously compelling in their silence. They don't chase, they decipher. And once a woman has tasted that depth of perception, the flat, average interest of other men begins to feel like emotional starvation. Number 2. They don't mirror desires. They mirror souls. The Sigma male does not waste his energy scattering compliments like cheap confetti. He has no interest in the hollow economy of surface-level validation, nor does he play the tired game of parroting back what he thinks a woman wants to hear. His method is one of silent, intentional observation. He notices what the world overlooks, not merely how she looks, but how she moves when anxiety whispers through her. The subtle shift in her energy in a shared silence. The topics she deftly avoids, and the unspoken, unconscious hungers she would never give voice to. This is what makes his attention feel almost surgical in its precision. For when he finally speaks, when he chooses to offer a piece of his perception, it is never random. It is never generic. It lands. He will articulate something so specific, so exquisitely tuned to her hidden emotional frequency, that she doesn't just feel noticed, she feels read, as if he has glimpsed a chapter of her own story that she herself has been trying to edit out. This level of connection is unnerving. It is electric. It lingers in the air long after the conversation ends. Sigmas do not mirror desires to gain approval. They mirror truths. While most men clumsily attempt to mimic a woman's personality to manufacture attraction, the Sigma reflects her very essence without conscious effort. He will say one thing, a single sentence, delivered in a low, steady tone, with unwavering eye contact. And in that moment, it will expose a facet of herself she wasn't prepared to confront. And now, she is thinking about it, about him, about how in all that is sacred he managed to see that. The most compelling part? He does not say it to impress. He says it because it is real, because he meant it, because his silence was not absence, it was profound attention. That raw authenticity cuts through the digital age noise of flirtatious nonsense and performative Instagram boyfriend energy. His goal is not to charm her, it is to understand her. And that very intention makes him unforgettable. Women do not walk away from such an encounter lightly. Compliments fade, memories of flattery blur. But the feeling of being deeply, truly seen? That does not just stick. It enters the bloodstream. It alters the chemical composition of her memory. It forces her to question every other man who only ever applauded the mask she wore. With the Sigma male, there was no stage, no performance. Only a quiet, razor-sharp moment of mutual recognition. And now, she is left wondering if she will ever feel that terrifying, exhilarating sensation of being known again. Number 3. They aren't afraid to leave a woman on red. Understand this. The Sigma male is not hypnotized by beauty. He can admire its aesthetics, appreciate its form, even enjoy its presence. But he does not worship it. He does not lose his inner composure, his centeredness, over a pretty face. This is why leaving a beautiful woman on read does not register as a risk or a tactic for him. It registers as normalcy. If the conversation lacks substance, if the energy feels inauthentic, or if her physical appearance is the sole currency she's trading in, he will not force an engagement. He will simply stop. No long-winded explanation, no dramatic exit, just resonant, echoing silence. And that silence? It carries more weight than most insults ever could, especially for women who are accustomed to a world where their inboxes flood, where double texts are the norm, where they are praised for the bare minimum. When a Sigma male does not respond, it is not an act of cruelty. It is not a mind game. It is a simple, neutral consequence. He feels no compelling need to reward effort that does not venture beyond the superficial. This calibrated indifference is phenomenally rare, and rarity in the human psyche is perceived as power. Suddenly, she is not the controller of the dynamic. She is not the undeniable center of attention. The ego, fed on a diet of constant validation, takes a direct hit. But the mind begins its spiral. Why the silence? What did I misstep? Does he not see what everyone else sees? And just like that, without lifting a finger, he occupies the psychological high ground. Because a fundamental law of power states, when you demonstrate you do not need something, you inherently gain authority over it. Sigma males are not impressed by what the crowd clamors for. They have trained their focus to value a different spectrum: intelligence, character, self-awareness, depth. So if a woman leads with only her exterior, expecting it to be a master key, she will swiftly find herself staring at a single, stark notification: seen, and nothing more. Yet here's the fascinating twist. This very act of ignoring her, not from a place of malice, but from a place of unwavering standards, often becomes the catalyst for genuine interest. Not because she feels played, but because for the first time, she is not being blindly worshipped. She is being measured, and to be measured is to be challenged. That subtle sting of being left on red by a man who perceives right through the surface-level charm? It isn't merely humbling, it is addictively attractive. Because he is the first one who didn't fall for the packaging. And that realization ignites a deep, compelling urge within her to become more than just the box. Number 4. They are not afraid of their own darkness. Sigma males do not posture as paragons of pure, sanitized light. They do not cloak themselves in artificial positivity or hide their complexities behind a polished, palatable image. They do not dilute their intensity to make the nervous feel comfortable. What you witness is the unedited version, and that version often carries a certain weight, a gravitational darkness, a depth that most men are too fearful to even acknowledge, let alone embody. This darkness is not evil. It is not toxicity. It is simply real. It is the integrated sum of the parts of him that have walked through personal hells and did not shatter. The parts that were forged in silence, tempered in pain, and strengthened in isolation. It is the anger he has learned to master, not be mastered by. The cold, analytical clarity he chooses to deploy, not be controlled by. The profound, often unsettling thoughts he guards closely, only sharing them with those who have earned the right to listen. He is not afraid of the dark. He understands it. He has made his peace with it. And this intimate familiarity grants him an edge, a palpable, magnetic gravity that people can feel long before they can explain it. Most men hide this side of themselves. They strive to seem agreeable, uncomplicated, emotionally predictable, safe. Sigma males do not play that game. Their goal is not to make everyone feel safe. Their goal is to remain real. And that rawness, that unfiltered authenticity pulls a certain caliber of woman inward with a powerful, almost gravitational force. Because intuitively, some women do not crave the polished man. They do not want perfection. They hunger for reality. They yearn for someone who bears scars and does not conceal them. Someone who has weathered internal storms and does not pretend it was only sunshine. Someone whose very presence feels subtly dangerous, not in a reckless way, but in a "this man has seen depths you can't Google" way. When a woman senses this energy from a Sigma male, she does not retreat. She leans in, because his shadow does not feel like a threat. It feels like a hidden doorway, a forbidden chamber, a space where societal masks disintegrate, superficial rules change, and interactions become startlingly, refreshingly real. She is drawn to walk into that darkness, not to fix him, but to understand him. Because in a world saturated with artificial, flickering light, his shadow feels like the only source of truth. And once she has stepped into its realm, everything else begins to feel glaringly bright, painfully fake, dangerously shallow. This is the transformative power of owning one's integrated self. It does not make you less attractive. It makes you unforgettable. Number 5. They make mystery a psychological drug. Sigma males do not dispense their thoughts like common currency. When a Sigma speaks, it is a deliberate act. When he shares a fragment of the personal, it is a considered event. And you can feel the weight of that choice. He does not ramble to fill silence. He does not over-explain to seek understanding. He has no need to. And that restraint, that potent silence becomes a psychological trigger, driving people, and especially women, into a state of fascinated, addictive curiosity. Women are conditioned to men who attempt to win favor through oversharing, premature vulnerability, or a barrage of flattery. The Sigma male operates on a different wavelength. He offers just enough to signal profound depth, but never enough for you to map its contours. Suddenly, he transforms into a living, breathing enigma you feel compelled to solve. This cultivated mystery functions like a potent neurochemical agent. The less he says, the more your mind demands to know. The less you comprehend, the more invaluable each revealed detail becomes. His history, his motivations, his inner world. They are not on public display. They must be earned. This process alone forges a powerful emotional hook, because the human brain is not captivated by what it already possesses. It is tantalized by what remains just beyond its grasp. This is not about emotional coldness or strategic game-playing. It is about disciplined stewardship of his own emotional and intellectual energy. He understands a profound psychological truth. Once you are fully deciphered, you become predictable. And predictability is the nemesis of fascination. With him, there is always another layer beneath the last, another question begging to be asked, another silence that echoes louder than another man's most passionate soliloquy. The most compelling part? He is not trying to be mysterious. He is private by nature. His focus is welded to his mission, not to making himself digestible for public consumption. This natural, unforced aura of mystery is what makes it so magnetically potent. People instinctively sense that he cannot be solved in a single conversation, or even a dozen. And that is precisely where the obsession begins. The more mental energy you invest in unraveling him, the deeper your emotional investment sinks. By the time you realize you are hooked, he has likely not even revealed a fraction of who he truly is. This is not manipulation. This is the irresistible gravitational pull exerted by someone who does not seek attention, yet commands all of it through the sheer power of unanswered questions. Number 6. Their emotional control triggers obsessive cravings. Picture a Sigma male standing in the heart of chaos. His internal state is calmer, more composed than most men lounging on vacation. That calm is not a performance. It is earned. It is a fortress built through relentless self-mastery, a discipline most never approach. While others are tossed by the waves of reaction, complaining, exploding, seeking external validation, the Sigma remains an island of stillness. He processes internally. He studies what would make others panic. And this profound emotional sovereignty does something powerful to the people around him, particularly women. Women are often fluent in the language of emotional volatility. They have witnessed men fracture under pressure, beg for reassurance, or perform fragility to feel needed. The Sigma male offers none of these narratives. He does not use people as emotional dumping grounds. He does not trade in sympathy. He handles his storms behind the walls of his own citadel. This brand of quiet strength is magnetic because it plants a tantalizing, relentless question in her mind. What would it actually take to shake this man? The more unshakable he appears, the more she craves a genuine reaction from him. The more silent he remains in the face of stress, the more desperate she becomes to unlock the vault of his interior world. He does not wear his heart on his sleeve. He guards it like a treasure reserved for a worthy few. And on those rare, chosen occasions when he allows a sliver of genuine emotion to slip through, a glimpse of warmth, a flash of dry wit, a moment of quiet appreciation, it feels not like a given, but like a bestowal. It feels invaluable because it was not distributed freely. It was earned. And now, you are left wanting more. He does not validate to please. He validates with purpose. His approval is not handed out like promotional material. It is rare, it is precise, it is meaningful. When a woman finally receives a compliment from a Sigma, or feels the weight of his focused attention, it resonates more deeply than any grand public declaration, because it was authenticated by his discernment. This is not emotional frigidity. This is emotional centering. A Sigma male is anchored in his own value system. He does not need to erupt to be heard. He does not need to crumble to be loved. And that profound emotional discipline is, in itself, addictive. It compels women to want to impress him, to reach him, to matter to him, because on an instinctual level, they understand. If you can make a man of such formidable self-possession feel something, then you yourself must be something extraordinarily rare. Number 7. They refuse to be the entertainment. Sigma males do not perform for attention. They do not sculpt their stories to appear more intriguing, nor crack jokes to win the favor of the room. They categorically refuse to contort themselves into a source of entertainment merely to sustain someone's fleeting interest. That entire paradigm is beneath their personal code. They would rather be profoundly misunderstood than dilute themselves into a crowd-pleasing caricature. Most men are conditioned by social expectation, by fear of rejection, by sheer desperation to entertain. They operate under the assumption that keeping a woman laughing, guessing, or amused is the golden key to attraction. The Sigma male perceives the flawed architecture of this belief. He understands that the moment you begin performing for another's approval, you have psychologically positioned yourself beneath them. So, he inverts the script. He enters conversations not with frenetic energy, but with a calm, grounded presence. Not cold, not arrogant, simply, undeniably real. He is not there to impress. He does not force charm, and this alone creates a seismic shift in the dynamic, especially for women accustomed to being the audience to a man's performance. Suddenly, the seeker is her. She is the one leaning in, modulating her tone, wondering what he thinks. It is a complete and silent reversal of power, and she feels it in her bones. This does not mean Sigma males are devoid of charisma or depth. Far from it. They possess reservoirs of wit, insight, and experience. But they reveal these facets organically when the moment calls for it, not as a premeditated tactic. This distinction makes everything they say feel weighted, valuable, and authentic, because it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't calculated for effect. It was true. When a Sigma male remains composed while others scramble for validation, it generates a potent magnetic tension, a quiet pressure in the atmosphere. Women find themselves initiating more, trying harder, venturing outside their own conversational autopilot. They begin to work for his genuine engagement. This is the formidable power of not performing. It disrupts social conditioning. It forces people to step into authentic interaction. And once a woman realizes she is actively pursuing a man who isn't even trying to catch her, she begins to question her own internal rule book. That is the precise moment of transformation. That is when he transitions from intriguing to irresistible. Not because he danced for her attention, but because he stood still, sovereign in his silence, and refused to. Number 8. They don't brag. They reveal in layers. A Sigma male never makes an entrance by announcing his value. He does not list his conquests, flex superficial symbols, or broadcast his capabilities. In truth, you might be in his presence for hours and never guess the full scope of what he's built, endured, or mastered. And therein lies the core of his power. He discloses himself in deliberate, compelling layers, not in loud, one-dimensional declarations. This slow, intentional unveiling is where fascination takes root. Instead of being bombarded with a resume disguised as conversation, a woman receives fragments. Small, sharp, perfectly placed pieces of a much larger mosaic. One moment, he is simply listening, a quiet presence. The next, he casually references a philosophical concept, an obscure historical precedent, or dissects a complex business principle with a clarity that cuts through hours of potential confusion. There is no ego in the delivery, no showmanship, only precision. And that precision creates a powerful, slow-burning tension, a curiosity that builds into a hunger. Because now she realizes, with dawning clarity, that there is profound depth operating beneath a surface of calm restraint. He wasn't trying to sell her an image, he was merely being himself. That critical difference makes his entire presence feel denser, more substantive, more real. She begins to replay conversations, searching for hidden clues, wondering what other reservoirs of knowledge or experience lie undisclosed. This is not merely about intellect or cultivated mystery. It is about the stark contrast. In a world drowning in over-explanation, oversharing, and desperate self-promotion, a man who possesses value but restrains its display becomes an anomaly of magnetism. The less he overtly shows, the more she desires access, not from a place of shallow curiosity, but from a sensed intuition that something extraordinary exists behind that discipline. Sigma males understand a brutal psychological truth. When you loudly flaunt your value, people become accustomed to it, and its worth depreciates. When you drip-feed value, allowing it to be discovered, people become addicted to the process of discovery. This is why their intelligence, their competence, their essence hits with such impact. It isn't thrown at your feet. It is unearthed, slowly and unexpectedly. And that act of discovery, that feeling of being a privileged archaeologist of a man's soul, is what truly captivates. By the time she glimpses the true depth of the well, she is already emotionally invested, hooked, chasing not for his attention, but for the profound understanding of who he is. And he remains, composed, revealing only what he chooses, on his own terms. This isn't arrogance. This is the quiet, absolute power of strategic disclosure. Number 9. They know exactly when to walk away, without a trace of drama. Sigma males do not deal in messy, emotional finales. There are no shouting matches, no guilt-ridden soliloquies, no passive-aggressive maneuvers designed to wound. When they discern that a connection, be it a conversation, a dynamic, or a relationship, no longer resonates with their core path, they depart. Quietly, clearly. With a closure so clean, it feels like a surgical incision. That caliber of dignified, unambiguous exit creates a silence that echoes far longer than any argument ever could. For women accustomed to wielding emotional leverage, to the predictable cycles of conflict and reconciliation, to lengthy explanations that beg for a second chance, this behavior is psychologically disorienting. The Sigma offers no warning salvo, no drawn-out negotiation, no final plea. Merely a subtle shift in energy, a conscious pulling back of his presence, and then nothing. He is gone. Not in a petty, blocking and ghosting sense, but in a manner that conveys a simple, irrevocable conclusion. I am done. This degree of emotional sovereignty sends a silent shockwave through her psyche. Initially, it breeds confusion. Then it feels like an insult to her perceived value, but ultimately, it transforms into something haunting. For it becomes painfully clear that his presence was never rooted in dependency, in chase, or in a fear of being alone. He remained only as long as the connection served a mutual, authentic alignment. The moment it ceased to, he walked. And he did not walk to inflict pain. He walked because he had already, in the quiet chambers of his mind, calculated the diminishing returns of staying, and had made peace with the exit long before his feet ever moved. This brand of detached, clear-eyed finality is exceptionally rare. And rare experiences leave the deepest imprints. Now, she is left in the reverberating silence, replaying every interaction. She interrogates every moment for clues she missed. She wonders, with a gnawing anxiety, if he ever truly cared at all. And that single, unresolved question, did I ever really have him, is what embeds itself in her memory. If he had screamed, begged, or launched a campaign to win her back, she would have retained a sense of control, of being the prize. But he didn't. He vanished with a dignity so complete it felt like a verdict. And now, her mind rushes to fill that void, not with closure, but with obsession. He leaves no emotional debris to clean up, only a pristine, empty space she is forced to confront. This is the formidable power of walking away without drama. It doesn't just conclude a chapter, it rewrites her entire perception of every paragraph that came before it, casting his memory in a light of enigmatic, unassailable strength. Number 10. They carry the energy of a lone wolf sovereign. Sigma males do not enter a space seeking validation from its occupants. Their eyes do not scan the room for approving nods or invitations. They move with the quiet, unassailable authority of a man who owns his territory, not because it was granted, but because he built it, stone by stone, within himself. There is a composed autonomy in their posture, in their speech, in their choice to engage or disengage. It is not loud or performative. It is sovereign. They carry the undeniable aura of a man who answers to an internal monarchy, and that is a rarity in a world of external committees. You will never hear a Sigma declaring himself an alpha. Such proclamations are for those who still seek to define themselves within a hierarchy. For the Sigma, his energy is the hierarchy. It manifests in the decisiveness of his choices, made without committee, in his ability to draw attention not by competing for it, but by naturally compelling it through his focused presence. In the profound, unmistakable peace he exhibits in solitude, as if being alone is not a sentence of loneliness, but the throne room of his own kingdom. This is the energy that sparks deep intrigue. There is no hunger in his demeanor, no thirst for external company, no silent plea to be wanted. His very existence broadcasts a complete sentence: I am already whole. For a woman accustomed to being the pursued, the prize, the center around which orbits revolve, this completely inverts the gravitational pull. Suddenly, she feels the unfamiliar urge to impress, to demonstrate that she is worthy of entry into a world that demonstrably does not revolve around her. And that is precisely what makes his world feel so potent, so desirable. There is a certain posture, a quiet steadiness, that comes from being self-constructed. Sigma males embody this without conscious thought. Their power does not derive from dominating others, but from an ironclad discipline, a crystalline self-knowledge, and a fundamental lack of need for the crowd, even as they may effortlessly command its respect. When a woman senses this sovereign energy, she doesn't just want his attention, she wants access. Not because he petitioned for her, but because proximity to a man of such self-containment makes the ordinary world seem chaotic, petty, and uninspired. This is not emotional distance, it is emotional sovereignty. The Sigma male does not wear a crown, he is the living embodiment of one. His presence communicates a silent, powerful truth. I do not belong to anyone, I choose, and that kind of quiet, inherent royalty does not ask for your attention. It commands your respect. Number 11. They let women project their own obsession. Sigma males do not chase. They do not overclarify their intentions. They do not fill silences with nervous justification. They remain still, unbothered, emotionally contained. And that very containment creates a powerful psychological vacuum. A blank, silent canvas. Into this empty space, women inevitably begin to project their fantasies, their insecurities, their deepest curiosities, their narratives of what if. Because when a man says less, the human mind is compelled to imagine more. This is especially potent when the man in question is composed, intelligent, and displays a calibrated form of emotional unavailability. A Sigma's lack of overt, performative interest does not repel. It pulls. It pulls her deeper into a labyrinth of her own making. She wonders, is he testing me? Does he feel something but refuse to show it? Is he so focused on his purpose that I'm merely a periphery? Or am I, perhaps, not enough to break his focus? Without him lifting a finger, he takes up residence in her mind. He becomes the unsolved riddle her thoughts circle back to, endlessly. Every glance, every sparse word, every moment of his quiet detachment becomes a data point to be analyzed, a clue in a mystery she is now desperate to solve. And the sheer genius of this dynamic? He is not doing any of it intentionally. He is not engineering mind games. He is simply being himself. Introspective, reserved, and highly selective with his emotional and mental energy, but that innate stillness creates fertile ground for obsession to take root. Because the human psyche has a fundamental intolerance for uncertainty. It craves resolution. It craves answers. The Sigma male, in his natural state, provides neither. He offers no cheap satisfaction of certainty. He refuses to reveal himself prematurely. This is not manipulation. It is profound restraint. He will not flood her with attention to soothe her curiosity. He will not gift her the easy closure of knowing exactly where she stands. And that is precisely what hooks her. Because the unknown is the most powerful narrative engine of all. It keeps her in a state of active curiosity. It keeps her emotionally invested in solving him. It keeps her guessing. She begins to construct entire internal dialogues about what he might be thinking. She replays interactions, searching for subtext. She fantasizes about potentials, because in the absence of clear action, anything seems possible. This is the quiet, formidable power of the Sigma male. He doesn't sell a fantasy. He simply provides the quiet, enigmatic space and lets her write the fantasy herself. And once a woman begins filling in his blanks with her own desire, her own longing, her own intricate web of what-ifs, she is already, irrevocably, caught in the narrative of her own creation. Number 12. They live as if no one is watching, which makes everyone watch. Sigma males do not live performative lives. This is the core, the essence, the final and most magnetic paradox. They do not curate their reality for an audience. They do not dress for external validation, post to prove a point, or sculpt their words to be admired. Their actions spring from an internal source, from who they are, not from who they wish to be perceived as. This brand of raw, unfiltered authenticity is a rarity. And in a contemporary world obsessed with being witnessed, a man who is genuinely indifferent to the spotlight becomes its most compelling subject. Consider this. When a man moves through the world with zero need to perform, every single thing he does carries the weight of truth. If he is quiet, it is not a strategy. If he is intense, it is not a show. If he is kind, it is not a transaction. And women, people in general, sense this authenticity on a visceral, almost cellular level, because they are surrounded by performers, especially in the arena of attraction. So when a Sigma male operates in complete independence from that approval-seeking loop, it sends a powerful subconscious signal. This man is different. This difference gets under the skin. It initiates a silent, psychological investigation. Women find themselves noticing his subtle patterns, rereading his brief texts, observing his quiet consistency. Not because he is broadcasting, but precisely because he is not. There is no "look at me" energy. Instead, there is a silent, hanging question in the air around him. What is he driven by? What does he truly care about? What universe exists behind those calm eyes? The mystery deepens precisely because he never offers easy answers. There is no begging for followers, no forced charisma, no life filtered through layers of effortful presentation. And in a world intoxicated with personal branding, a man who does not try to impress somehow ends up being the most impressive. They are drawn to him without a clear reason. They notice him in a crowded room without him uttering a word. They crave his attention even in the absence of his praise. He is not a secret by design, but he feels like the best-kept one. This is the formidable, almost alchemical power of living without a performance. It makes him unforgettable without striving to be remembered. And for a woman accustomed to being the pursued, to being the obvious goal, a man like this becomes a living psychological cliffhanger, a story she will turn over in her mind for days, searching for the ending he will never provide. Sigma. Males do not follow the worn map of attraction. They move by a different compass, bending its rules without exertion or intent. In a world saturated with men performing, proving, and pleading for a moment of regard, the Sigma simply exists within his own lane, silent, composed, unmoved by the external chaos. He does not chase attention. He transcends the need for it. He does not beg for affection. He is complete without it. He doesn't need to raise his voice, for his energy speaks in a frequency that vibrates in the bones, not just the ears. Everything about him, from his citadel-like emotional control to his clean, undramatic exits, stands as a quiet challenge to the conventional. And that challenge is the very source of his irresistible gravity. Women are not merely intrigued, they are drawn in, often against their own logic, because he offers something far beyond charm or aesthetics. He offers psychological weight. He makes you labor for comprehension. He makes you question your own leverage. He makes a shared silence feel more loaded, more intimate than 1,000 shouted declarations. And in an era drowning in noise, that profound silence becomes unforgettable. So, while others exhaust themselves fighting to be seen, Sigma males remain the enigmatic riddle. And that riddle, beautiful, frustrating, compelling, haunts the mind long after he has departed the room. Not because he sought to leave a mark, but because a man who is built, not manufactured, doesn't have to. If this hit you deep, if you felt every word like it was calling out truths no one else dares to say, then don't just scroll away. Subscribe to the channel, because this is where the masks come off and the real conversations begin. Like this video, if you're tired of recycled cliches and ready for raw, unfiltered insight that actually makes sense, drop a comment. Tell us which Sigma habit hit the hardest, or which one you've secretly experienced. And most importantly, share this with someone who thinks they know what attraction means until they meet a Sigma. This isn't just content, this is clarity, and you're part of it now. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.